if they don't go quarterback in the first round, if you had to guess, they're obviously going to be the best player available. Scheme doesn't matter. What position will they go with?
I'm still going to go edge because, so for them it would be 3-4 outside linebacker, a guy who lines up, down in defensive end and nickel. Because I think that will wind up being the best player available. It could be.
And they lost Preston Smith, so they need.
It's a position of need. Although Jay said yesterday, he's like, it's time for Ryan Anderson to, stop talking and play, to which Michael Phillips responded, that would involve Ryan actually talking, which is a good point. But he definitely, they need Ryan Anderson to be big, whether they have another guy there or not.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, to get another guy who's got more pass rush skill, whether it's Brian Burns out of FSU or Cleveland Farrell out of Clemson, I think those two guys, they've kind of always been on my radar. It could wind up being one of the corners, Byron Murphy out of Washington, who I think could play nickel for them.
He's really good.
They need a nickel.
But they need wide receivers desperately.
That's the thing is I just don't know if there's a wide receiver that's going to be the right. I think 15
and I understand
might
that.
be
So what
too
do they
rich.
do? It seems like
I think trading down's back. I think trading down's absolutely a part of the equation.
Why couldn't you trade down to 22 and still get DK Metcalf or Hollywood Brown? Or
I would say,
want?
By the way, I don't think they like Metcalf.
Okay, I'm just throwing a name out there.
Harry out of Arizona State.
Kill Harry's money.
Brown.
The only thing about Brown is, God, he's tiny.
Yeah, but God, he's fast.
So is Antonio Brown. He's pretty tiny.
I know.
Too.
I'm not saying that, but I mean, you can't really use him in the red zone.
They've already got 4 picks in the first 96. I think they would love to make that 5 or 6. And so ultimately, I do think trading down is a real option. The other option, of course, to add a weapon would be you draft T.J. Hawkinson or Noah Fant, and you get a tight end, and I think that's on the board as well.
All right, so time flies. It'll be not 8:54 before we know it. Let's do kind of a mini mock draft. We're not going to go around the room and do it like we usually do, but we'll start with the Cardinals. Do you think that they will take
Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma?
Okay, so that means Rosen has to be traded.
Yes.
So the Kingsbury yesterday was really positive. Like the latest thing that I saw on Rosen said Rosen absolutely fits in my system.
Of course,
what else is he going to say?
That's what all NFL coaches do when they take the podium.
And
they lie to you.
He might. Kyler might just fit better.
Right.
Or they might go with Rosen and trade down.
I mean, they could do that too, because they could absolutely get someone will want to take Kyler 1.
Right.
He is so much better reviewed than everyone else in this class. Every scout I talk to is it's Kyler, then it's everyone else.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so you got Murray going 1. All right, so that means the Niners don't need a quarterback. Obviously, they need edge rusher. So Bosa probably goes there.
Bosa.
All right. Jets at 3.
That's where it gets fun because a lot of people think that's where the trade happens. That someone goes up and gets Haskins.
Oh, really?
And obviously the Jets have Darnold. They don't need him. So a lot of people think that's where the trade action really starts.
Okay.
If they stay put, I mean, I think it's
Josh Allen
out of Kentucky. He's the next best player available, and
Stud.
he fits for them. So I would guess that's the pick, but there's definitely
on Haskins.
Fixed.
Outside of the tape, because the tapes, especially last year, was really good. But
well, the tape is interesting.
Combine and Pro Day.
Yeah, because his Pro Day was while I was in Arizona, I think, or maybe it was right before. I haven't had a chance to
I think it was right before you went.
I think it was right before. I haven't had a chance to debrief with my usual people yet on that. But the tape is interesting within itself. The production's insane, but their system is very not NFL friendly. There's not a lot to. I think there's going to be mixed reviews, and you're going to have to interview well and be able to get up on the board and show an understanding and an ability to learn that's pretty good. I haven't heard anything tragic about him. Certainly, the lack of athleticism stands out, but I think he's the one thing that you keep hearing is he's a really gifted thrower.
Oh yeah, the ball comes out of his hand.
And I will say, being in the building in Indianapolis, I know some of the shorter stuff wasn't as good, but his deep ball looked different than everyone else.
Let me ask you this: could the Giants at 6, if there's no trade at 3 with the Jets to come up and get Haskins, could the Giants at 6 take Locke over Haskins? You think they might?
The thought is that they like Jones a lot.
Okay.
That he's their kind of guy. That the intellectual, no nonsense, could handle New York, just super chill, everything would roll off his back. That he's more the kind of guy.
Locke's a different cat.
Yeah, I like
I think he's a good dude, but he's a different cat.
Yeah, like personality-wise, I love Locke.
Yeah.
Like he's talking to him a little bit down in Mobile. I really liked him. He's engaging. Like he'd be fun to cover. Daniel Jones would be terrible to cover.
Very boring.
Now I don't have no idea who's a better player. I'm not a scout. I don't pretend to be. And I even I did an interview with who's the offensive coordinator at Duke to get a kind of better sense of Jones. And I go, when I saw Daniel on the podium in Mobile, I turned to another reporter and said he has negative moxie. What's he like behind the scenes? Because everyone tells me that's not the case. And he just laughed and he goes, yeah, the Daniel you guys get in the media could not be more different than the guy in the locker room. Everybody loves him. His teammates love him. We love him. He's intense. Like, he gets it. But, God, like, if he was on a show or doing an interview, like, it would not be.
So he just chooses to be a bore fest.
Yeah, but
that's
then
what
again,
he wants to put out.
Kind of worked for Alex Smith for
right.
a dozen
there's a
years in the
ton of
league.
quarterbacks that are just boring,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, just boring people.
Most of them are
Most of them are
probably
just boring.
Yeah.
And going back to what he's saying about different opinions, I was telling the guys, I saw our guy Charlie Castley tweet out yesterday. He believes Daniel Jones is the most pro-ready quarterback. That's just one guy's opinion.
And a lot of people think that because of Cutcliffe.
I couldn't get over the crow hopping when he was throwing deep balls at the combine.
Apparently had a pretty good pro day yesterday. I got to go back and watch that and talk to people because I know some people that were there.
I mean, you got to get rid of that ball, and it's got to go. You can't take that extra step.
Well, and not to mention, in the throwing session in Indy, the deep ball stuff, like, it was a crow hop, and then the ball's on the numbers. Like, you have to get that ball outside the numbers.
Yeah.
And
who knows? Maybe he was nervous.
Yeah, who knows? I'm not going to judge him on deep balls in Indianapolis.
Right. And then there's going to be a lot of edge rushers, linebackers taking, Quentin Williams, defensive tackle from Bama.
Yep.
And then Hawkinson's interesting.
Hawkinson's interesting. I'll tell you the guy that I hope falls
because
to 15.
the way he runs,
He's a tight end, right?
Yeah, he's a tight end in Iowa. They got two stud tight ends, but he just now Fant is just. I mean, he's a speedster, real
6'6", runs a 4.5.
just a freak. But Hawkinson, you watch him play, you're like that.
He's nasty.
He's got great hands.
Yeah.
So.
And he's the Y tight end that they need. He's the guy that they like. Cooley did this whole study on his podcast of like tells and things like that, play calling. It was really interesting. But like amongst the things, it was absurd percentage of when Jordan Reed is on the field, they pass. When Jeremy Sprinkle's in, they run. They need a tight end for what Jay wants to do, who is not an automatic tell of what they're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkinson's that guy.
Right.
And so he makes a ton of sense. But then again, so does Fant. Because the idea that you could move on from Vernon, which is still a possibility, and replace his speed from that tight end position and make him a long-term replacement for Jordan in case the injury stuff happens and continues to happen, that would be like either one of those guys I could justify.
Jordan Reed, though, didn't miss a ton of games this year. But
no,
yet, the overall production, when you put Reed, Davis, and everybody else, it was lacking this season.
Yeah, Jordan is going into the offseason healthy for the first time since 14, which he then had the best season he's ever had in 15. So, like, I'm hopeful on Jordan. I'm bullish on Jordan. I'm also a sucker for Reed because I think he's a great dude, and I just love watching him at his best. And I'm not saying he's going to go out and have 12 touchdowns, but, like, it's possible. And then again, we thought that was going to be possible in I think it was 16, and he broke his foot in July. So, you never know.
They could even wait and then maybe get Irv Smith. I like Irv Smith, too.
Yeah, he's a possibility, too. I'll tell you the guy that I hope falls to 15. And I've seen it in a couple mocks, and I'm stunned every time because he's top 5, top 10, if not top 5 player.
Okay.
Devin White at LSU.
Yeah.
If he somehow falls to 15, you cannot run fast enough for the podium.
Probably won't.
Probably won't.
That would be an easy
but
pick for
the
them,
question is, how close do they have Devin Bush rated out of Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Similar type of guy, playmaking speed from the linebacker spot. Do they upgrade over Sean Dion Hamilton there? They like Sean Dion, but like those two dudes are